Hello, John of Tadley.
Greetings.
Greetings to you, sir. Okay.
Cheers to you all. This has no salt in and no magnesium at all.
Probably just as well if you're drinking ale, my
I was
friend.
given this for Father's Day. Is the Abbott Ale?
Lovely stuff. Okay, I'm just on the tea, unfortunately. Anyway, right. So, John, you have just updated the National CV of Britain, helped by many members of the CV team, our floating university, as you have called it. And I see that the National CV is available for free as a downloadable PDF by clicking the magenta button, which we'll look at shortly, which is just below the masthead on the homepage. Can you walk us briskly through this, the new 2026 document? How have you organised this potted yet comprehensive history of Britain?
Well, remarkably, there's 1,800 words on this, on two sides of A4, and there are I have four different goes at the nation's history. And the first one, I don't know whether you want to bring it up. It's just a standard CV in a way. The name is Britain. The age is 8,000 years an island. Capital city, London. Family members, England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland. And the most important thing is the overarching statement. Are you going to click on that?
I'm going to click on the free 2020.
Yeah, click on that.
Click on there.
There we go. So we're on that left-hand column there on the first page. And you go down to the overarching statement, and this is: Britain has made the most disproportionate contribution to civilization of anywhere on earth, whilst representing less than 0.2 of the world's landmass and having under 1% of the people at any given time. Britain launched the modern world, science, industry, age of reason, farming gains, globalization, freedom and democracy, and health and humanitarianism, and has made many other pioneering contributions: railway, modern bicycle, TV, computer, jet engine, antibiotics, World Wide Web, English language. The British are the influential islanders, and Britain is applying for the future. So the first go, and then that column ends with: this sceptred isle, this green and pleasant land of hope and glory. That's the first go at it. Then if you go back up again, Paul, you can see on the right there. So on the right, you've got the words Britain in brief, because that was the brief I originally gave myself, to be brief. And there's the logo of the National CV. You can see the world inside Britain. And there's a summary of, so this is the second go at Britain, as it were. And there's a whole load of things there, from megalithic culture, tin, and right down to the bottom where you've got globalization and English is the first language. Now, if you go down to the next page, Paul, so there are the influential islanders. And on the right, you've got 70 key dates, which load from the top. And if you go right to the bottom of that box, Paul, you can see that Britain becomes an island, Doggerland floods. And then the next date up, you've got megalithic monuments erected, Stonehenge. Then you go up to the top again, and you'll see that Brexit Britain leaves the EU, and that's the one to make your blood boil if you're a Brexiteer, because of course we voted to leave in 2016, but didn't actually leave until 2020, infuriatingly and destroying the credibility of the political class. And then, of course, Charles III, who came on reign since 2022. So that's the third go at Britain. This is only 2 pages. Then on the left-hand column, you've actually got a timeline. Now, when I did this originally, which was for the 2012 Olympics, also for the Royal Jubilee that year, I noticed, if you go up again a bit, Paul, stop. No, that's it. We're just looking at that timeline. I noticed that we actually launched the modern world, and then we've also got the greatest cavalcade of monarchs in the world, and we, of course, have mining. We're one of the greatest places for extracting minerals on the globe, and also the megaliths. And it all began with M. And I thought, well, at the top, we could have momentum, because we've got the timeline there is from 6,000 BC to 2000 plus AD. And so momentum is anything new. And then at the bottom, we have what was the subject of tonight, which is marvels, which is not a dumping ground for everything else. It's actually sparklingly interesting. So that is the 4 different ways. Now, if you go down now a little bit, Paul, down. Well, no, don't go too far down. But anyway, each one of those M's has a different thing. And last week we heard Peter Chesborough do mining, which is number 4 on that list. And today we're looking at marvels.
Brilliant. Okay. And some of the stuff we've got here under marvels looks absolutely brilliant. So let's see where we are now. So we're up to marvels. So what are we talking about in this category specifically, John? What has made it onto the updated national CV?
Well, if you bring me back on the screen, I'll just tell you that we have a unique flood story called the Welsh Triad, from the Welsh Triads. We've got Druidism. We're the home of Druidism, of course, with Julius Caesar and so forth. And that also, that's very good. I got somebody, a serious historian said, why have you got Druidism in there? Because we don't really know that much about it. Well, actually, it's really good because it gives you literate BC. It comes freighted with literacy. It's absolutely brilliant. And we're also the birth of Christendom. Half British Constantine the Great decreed Sunday holy, and that's why we worship, the Christians worship on Sunday. Then we had a female pope in 850s, which is great fun. And people say, well, no, she didn't really exist. Well, yes, she did, because that's why they have a hole in the chair of the Pope. So you look up there and make sure he's not a woman. And I just ask people, why do you think they do that? They do actually, well, they used to. I don't know whether they still do an inspection, a kit inspection, shall we say. Anyway, enough of that. The wool trade, cathedrals and churches, the weekend. I mean, that was Robert Walpole in the 1700s wanted to go hunting on Saturdays, and he resented the fact that the House of Commons was sitting on Saturdays. So he invented the weekend. So that we've been living with that, and that's gone worldwide. And then you've got the planet Uranus was found in 1781, and then you've got all sorts of wonderful things, like we've got the first, properly organised fire brigade, the lawn mower in 1830. Great Exhibition of 1851, the Bessemer converter, 1856. That's a quick way of getting steel from iron. I mean, that was a tremendous invention. And the woolen suit, safety at sea, that's the Plimsoll line and the Royal National Lifeboats and what have you. Anglepoise lamp, we invented that in 1932. The baby buggy in 1965. A bloke called McLaren, nothing to do with the racing car company, used Spitfire parts to produce that, the undercarriage of Spitfires. Bottled beer, we did that. We invented sparkling wine. It wasn't invented south of the Channel. English wines today, whiskey, gin, mead. We invented the sandwich, dairy ice cream, Stilton, cheddar, milk chocolate and chopped bars, pubs and pies, fish and chips, roast lunch and pudge. You can imagine I enjoyed producing this bit. Curry, copper, tea. And then it finishes off with imperial units, miles, feet, pounds, pints. John Michel would have been proud of us for that last one.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay.
It's actually free, but the original group of the National CV went to a history festival. And although we were giving it out free, we solicited donations of the smallest denomination of coin in Britain, so that people could claim to have spent a penny on British history.
Mm. Are you actually looking for volunteers to help you with the CV in any way, John?
Yeah, we actually have a monster vacancy. We don't have a webmaster. It's actually quite a fateful post, because the bloke who was originally our webmaster was taken to his hospital and nearly died of something or other. And then we had another one who was taken to hospital and nearly died of something, but neither of them have died. So what we're looking for is a third. We need a webmaster, because I'm a bookman, not a web bloke. But it needs the whole thing just needs to be updated, and we've got loads more information and all sorts of things.
Okay,
This document is quite an advance on the 2018 one, which was an advance on the 2012 one.
Brilliant. Okay, so if there's anyone out there that knows a thing or two about web mastering, please do contact us. You can contact me on my email, or just mention it in the chat box or in the comments section if you're watching the repeat. And do please, as we go along, please do type in your questions into the chat box in capital letters, please, so I can distinguish them from the other comments. Brilliant. We're already getting one or two. There's one. I'm going to ask it now because it's a good one. From from Hugh Evans, who has asked, did we invent football? If so, why are we so bad at it?
We codified it, actually. There was a whole various different games called football, and we codified it in the 1800s, and therefore we are the progenitor of the modern game. But astonishingly, the first ever game of football recorded on planet Earth, I believe, was in AD 217, when the Britons beat the Romans. And then he celebrated with a football match. And the second part of that is, if so, why are we so bad at it? Actually, I think if you look at it, I don't know exactly what the figure was, but it's something like we've done about 1,000 games or something. And actually, we tend to win about something like 57% or something like that. And then we draw about 15%. And then the other group, we don't need to mention that other category. So it isn't terrible. It's just in tournaments, we don't tend to do well, but every other, we do okay.
And of course, we also invented cricket. But if you'd been watching England play over the weekend, you would find that extremely hard to believe, unfortunately. But there we go. Of course, we win at football and we win major tournaments when there are at least 3 West Ham players in the England team. That's the best, you see. And at the moment, there are none. So anyway, right, let's move on. Let's not talk about football. Okay, let's go back to the questions, John, I think. So underlying the 2-pager in the CVpedia, which is the equivalent of a 300-page hard copy encyclopedia, can you rocket us through the CVpedia's contents page, John?
Yeah, by all means. Why don't you get us onto that?
Yeah, okay.
And we can...
I'll just quickly maximize this again.
Yeah.
And okay, so right, I need to go back.
Yeah.
And then
there we go. CVpedia on the menu on the left.
Here we
That's
are.
it. There we go. Now, once again, you can see the logo of the national CV there with the world inside Britain, and below it is the M classification, which it is actually possible to do the M classification, whereas doing a series of articles on everything else would take you a very long time indeed. But you can see how we've broken it down here: momentum, modernity, monarchs, mining, and so forth. And modernity, you've got islands aloft and islanders afloat, and you've got science and farms and garden, industrialization, technology, materials, globalization. It is really an encyclopedia. Encyclopedia means to learn in a circle. So it covers a very great deal of territory. And you can see there's also after freedom, humanitarianism, health, empire and wars, language and culture, sport and leisure. Then you've got the monarchs, you've got the rulers BC, rulers AD, we know those. And then you've got mining, which is I think is wonderful. Then megaliths, which is also wonderful. Then you've got marvels. Now, this is what we're talking about today and what we've been talking about. That was what's in the actual one-page national CV is a distillation of this lot: religion, legends, people, calendar, food and drink, domesticity, local colour, London, scholarship, statecraft, and overseas. Then right at the bottom there, you've got a great slab of sources, because everything is sourced. So if you want to press on marvels, Paul, we could go
there we
back.
are. That should have changed.
The whole CVpedia is described on that page we just left, actually, as a list of Britain's national achievements, notable characteristics, eminent characters, and memorable events. So you get to this one here, marvels. And it says here, in this section of the CVpedia, you'll see that Britain has been described as an ancient repository of souls, as having been inhabited by giants, as having the most outstanding tradition anywhere of renowned women, as the pioneer of unholy revelries at Christmas, I'll mention that in a second, as the inventor of ice cream, as the first mass producer of toothbrushes, as the home of yew trees more than 5,000 years old, as having a capital over 3,000 years old, and as the greatest provider of travelers and explorers of any nation in history. Just look at that one. It says, as the pioneer of unholy revelries at Christmas. Do you want to bring me back on screen?
Yes, John, 1 second.
Right.
Let's minimize that. There we are.
I was reading this in my favorite historian, which everybody knows is the Tudor Holinshead. And he writes in there, or one of his, probably not him, but anyway, he's in the Holinshead Chronicle, which incidentally is in that key date item, along with William Shakespeare and so on, Elizabeth II. And what he reports is in the 400s, the late 400s, King Arthur goes to York to relieve a siege of the city, I think, or maybe the Saxons. So we're against the Saxons. He takes the city from the Saxons. Anyway, I can't quite remember how it goes, but King Arthur wants to show clemency and magnanimity, and he says we will have 12 days of revelry at Christmas, and this is the first recorded 12 days of Christmas anywhere on the earth. And
wow.
King Arthur,
Didn't know that.
I think he was Arthur of the Britons. It's not Arthur ap Muric, which is the sort of King Arthur of the 500s. We're in the 400s, and he casually invented the 12 days of Christmas.
Brilliant.
Another piece of pioneering. It's amazing. We did Sunday, you see. We gave the world Sunday. We gave them the weekend, and we gave them 12 days of Christmas, getting slaughtered for 12 consecutive days.
Brilliant. Okay. Right. Okay. So the National CV, John, has 3 tiers of information, doesn't it? So at the top is the National CV itself, the 2-pager, which we've just looked at. Below that is the CVpedia, which we've just looked at. And below that, we've got the more articles tier, which is a particular favourite of mine. So are you looking to expand that section?
Yeah, enormously. Do you want to pull that one up?
Yes, bear with. Okay, more articles. Here we go.
That's it. Keep us on screen. It's at the moment, I think we've got about 31 pieces by all kinds of experts and people with some fantastic views on all sorts of things. And what we really want to do, I would love to do, is basically double that. And then we all these are cross-linked into the CVpedia itself. So if you want to do anything, he says, you look at number 21 there, L.A. Waddell was a fine scholar who took seriously the British chronicles, telling us of the coming of the Trojans circa 1100 BC. So that's the traditional tale. I know this, people take a different view on the date, but he basically, and so if you could just read it, and it's it's absolutely, I think it's wonderful stuff. And there's all, Ibraucus there, and flying King Bladud, and it's just tons of stuff. But we've got, I heard that Peter Chesborough is doing an article on mining.
Yes.
And I know he's going to send it to you when it's ready. That is born to be in this group, unless he wants to publish it in some other format. But of course, you can publish it anywhere as well. It's not, it's not exclusive repository. And Marshall's fine articles that appeared recently in the network of lay hunters. That's another. A version of that is born to go into this to support the Albine notice in the rulers BC of monarchs. So I'd love to, but we need a webmaster who's prepared to do this stuff. I don't think it's terrible. It's not, as they say, rocket science, but it's just that I don't do it. I can't be bothered. I
Okay,
don't mind
John.
creating it.
We'll
But
have a
actually,
chat. Sorry, go on.
no,
I was going to say we'll have a chat about that after the show because I might be able to help. But if anyone,
no, look after your business, Paul. Stop spreading yourself thinly.
Okay, I'd love to do it, but okay, you're probably right there. So if anyone knows of anyone, out there, please do get in touch with us because we would love to, as John has just said, really build on all the amazing work that's been done so far. From my own perspective, looking through the more articles, I've gained so much knowledge and information from just this one section of the CV. Particularly Lucius of Britain was the world's first Christian king. Joseph of Arimathea came to Britain, which was written by Wilson and Blackett. We've also got The Origin of British Christianity by R.W. Morgan. That really helped me out when I was first getting stuck into early Christianity in Britain. We've also got by Morgan Druidic Theology and Boadicea, the original Queen Victoria. We've got the entire 7th century Tassilo Chronicle, translated by the great Bill Cooper. And as John has pointed out, L.A. Waddell and what's his name, Bladdard. There's just so much brilliant stuff in this one section. I love the more articles. So it'd be great to, at least, as John says, double up on what we've got so far there. Brilliant stuff. Okay, let me just come back to screen. I think.
But, I mean, it's also, you see, if you know, like Hugh or Melissa or any of them who've got a favourite article, which they feel pleased with and want to put it into another audience, you can just drop it in there. You see.
Fantastic. Okay. I've got another question to ask you, John, but before I do that, should I take the website off the screen now? Just have us both on now. Is that okay?
Sure.
We're done, right? Brilliant. Okay, I'll do that now. So we're back on screen. Brilliant. And I'm also just going to cruise briefly through the chat box to see how many questions we have as well, because this is obviously very interactive, this show. So I'll go through it briefly. We've asked the football question. We won't do that again. We've established.
We're playing Ghana next, I see.
Yes, don't start me off for football. I'll end up talking about football all night. But I think we've clearly established now that in order for England to be successful, there needs to be at least 3 West Ham players in the team. Okay.
We need to amend the CVpedia with that information.
We do, absolutely right. Just scrolling through. Don't forget, any questions? There's the football one. Any questions, do please drop them in the chat box. I have seen others. Here's one here, I think. Okay, this is a brilliant question as well. This is from Merlin's boy, John, and he's asked, what does John think is Britain's most influential century on A, a global scale, and also B, on an island-wide level? Good question.
I think that is a tremendous question. I expect we should say the Victorian era, because we industrialized like the clappers and the whole world emulated us, and we put railways all over the place. I mean, it's fascinating to read about the in British India, the Raj, and we put an immense amount of railways in, and to this day they love traveling by trains. I know, I've been there. They all pack on the roofs and this sort of thing, and they were all, of course, established by the Victorians. Probably therefore the 1800s is probably our best, but we've done extremely well right up to the present. We really, I mean, I know this is a bit, it's not quite on the same scale as industrialization, but it happens that I live not far from Basingstoke, and there's a bloke a British bloke has just done a triple circumnavigation of the globe by air, land, and sea. And the air was a gyrocopter, and he went round the world in this contraption. And it's just, we're doing it all the time. People do it all the time. We do it automatically. We are, one of the things about the project is under momentum in the thing itself. It says traditional values: freedom, democracy, tolerance, fair play, empiricism, individualism and individuality and originality, civility, seeing the funny side of things, and here it comes, and looking outwards as part of a global destiny. We're on an island, but it doesn't feel like an island. We actually look out. That's what we do, is we look out absolutely automatically to the world. And it's a wonderful thing. So this bloke has just been around the world three different ways.
Very brave
Apparently
man.
he had a motorcycle accident and decided to show everybody. He did.
Okay. So your answer to that, in brief, is the Victorian era.
I think, yeah.
Can I just mention the Renaissance in this country? How influential was Britain in the Renaissance? I know that the Italians were very influential as well, weren't they?
Yeah, well, I mean, you're talking about Shakespeare, really. I mean, fabulous contribution and all that sort of stuff. And of course, and less celebrated by some is Francis Bacon, who was the great philosopher of science, of course. And I mean, you could say, you see, I mean, I've said the Victorians because, you know, the railways, the telegraph, the steamships and everything. Well, also the exercise of military might, so that, in fact, it was a very long period without significant wars, which is, you know, which is a very good thing to consider what didn't happen as well as what did happen. But then you've got, in the 1600s, of course, you've got the scientific revolution. So this is after the English Renaissance in the 1500s. You've got the 1600s, you've got the scientific revolution, and that's quite big. that was a good one to do on a wet Wednesday, you know, it's pretty good. So you've got, I mean, fundamentally, we've made a huge contribution.
Lovely, right. Okay, question from Daniela McNeil. She has asked, is there a section on slavery and Britain's role in how we ended it?
There is. There's a great slab on it. Under, let me just think where it is. Under modernity, there is a section called humanitarianism. Of course, the attempt to snuff out the slave trade was the greatest humanitarian campaign in history. There's never been anything like it, and we did it on our own, and we did it in blood and treasure, and we had to threaten various countries with war to stop them doing it, including Brazil and a few other African nations, because of course the African chiefs were absolutely up to their eyeballs in it because it was part of their economy. And they terrorized all their neighbors and shipped them out and all this sort of stuff. It was a fantastic achievement, actually. This is why you don't rub your nose in the slave trade. Think about this fantastic thing from Wilberforce onwards. It was one of the greatest achievements. I mean, if you think about the British Empire, which personally I think was wonderful, the two greatest achievements for me are the anti-slavery campaign and the defeat of Hitler. Those were so epoch-making, both of those things. It's just fantastic. And of course, we look, I mean, you haven't asked me about empire, but, you know, if you look at the countries that we spawned, you know, I mean, they're doing fantastically well.
It's such a contentious subject these days, isn't it? The British Empire. I'd love to do a show on it, but I'm not so sure I could handle any of the aftermath that might ensue as a result, because people are so tunnel vision when it comes to it now. They can, you know.
I know the BBC did a documentary on Empire. And the bloke, I think he started, or I couldn't bear to watch it, but he started with Britain established a network of prisons around the world. I just thought, oh God, give us that. What a load of, well, we did, of course, but we also did hospitals, universities, schools, massive amounts of railways, telegraph, all this sort of stuff. We connected up the world. It was the first globalization. And
sorry, John, I seem to remember Adrian Gilbert saying that really the British Empire started off with us just setting up various trade networks. It was all just about trade and nothing else, and at least initially.
Yeah, that's right. Well, it was trading, it was maritime, it was liberal. All these things are on the two-pager, which is, I have to say, a miracle of compression, because under the British Raj, there were two things, you know, widow burning. We outlawed widow burning. You know, you're not allowed to burn your widow. It's amazing. But anyway, they had this. But they also had the cult, the murder cult called Thuggies. And this is where we get the modern word thug. And that was in the 1830s. We outlawed that. But we had to pursue them. They were killing people. Just, these people were...
That was in Sri Lanka, wasn't it? If I remember
no. It was in southern India. They were doing it for Kali, something or other. They were knifing people. Just, you go out... Travelers, they've just knifed them, and they had to do it as a religious obligation, and we absolutely snuffed it out. That, you see, when I wrote something around, I think I'm trying to think what the date was. It ended in 1947 and started in 1757, so it was almost 2 centuries. And I had a little gap, and I thought, well, you can't just put widow burning and thuggies, so I put the word modernization, and I thought I was really pleased with that.
Brilliant. Okay. Mark Manning has asked, any Comyns Beaumont on the CV?
The Comyns Beaumont is in the scholars section, so that is actually one of the marvels, because we produce these amazing scholars. I mean, like L.A. Waddell is in there as well. Comyns Beaumont is in there. Gets a nice slab. And he gets a couple of quotes. I mean, he produces amazingly interesting quotes, and some of them are in the CVpedia. I love his stuff.
Wouldn't it be wonderful if some publishing company out there managed to, reprint his books? Because I've only been able to read one so far, and that was The Great Deception. And I will, hands up in the air, I will admit to struggling with that due to a lack of citations and sources. But it's his earlier material, prehistoric Britain and that kind of stuff, that I would be particularly fascinated in reading. But it's like 200 or 300 quid a pop online. And I'll be in a lot of trouble if I spend that much money on a book. So I can't do it.
You'd have to sell a lot of supplements. Solutions. Sorry, solutions.
Solutions. That's better, John. Thank you.
I've got them all, but I got them when I don't know why I got them quite inexpensively. I didn't have to pay £300 for any of them. No, but I've got the full slate, and they're fabulous. He is the arch revisionist. If you like revisionism, go for Comyns Beaumont, and he is celebrated in the CVP scholars.
Off the top of your head, John, can you remember what Comyns Beaumont said about Jesus, where he was from?
Well, he claimed. Ooh, that's a difficult one. He claimed that Jerusalem was really Edinburgh, or Edinburgh was really Jerusalem.
Yes.
So I presume he must have, to be consistent, he must have said that Jesus went to Edinburgh, and he has Pontius Pilate there, and there are good connections with Pontius Pilate in Scotland, but
I think some of the people that follow Beaumont's information on this believe that Jesus was Simon Bar Cockbar. I think I've got the name right. He was in Britain.
And is that what Comyns? I don't think he said that, did he?
I'm not sure, but I've seen people that talk about Beaumont and Jesus, and they put forward that idea. Whether it was Beaumont's or not, I don't know.
No, I don't think he could. I basically, I don't know, but I do know that Edinburgh is Jerusalem in the Comyns Beaumont world.
Apparently, they're set out very similarly, aren't they? Jerusalem and Edinburgh.
There's uncanny similarities. Yeah, you're absolutely right, because somewhere in the Bible they go and get fish from Jerusalem, and you'd have to get a bus, wouldn't you, to go to the Mediterranean, or you'd have to go to the Galilee or something. I mean, you'd have to make. But it works perfectly if you're in Edinburgh, because then I think you go to Leith or somewhere like that. It's just straightforward, and it's one of a whole load of things like that. And you just it's unhinging in the end. You just think, I don't know where I am now. Which is always the way with revisionism.
Yes, very true. Okay. Now, I'll before I put this question on screen, I'll just say this is assuming that we've got a webmaster in place for the National CV. Marshall Abrahams has said, I can think of one. Hugh's brilliant Lay Hunter's article on the Union Jack.
Yeah,
that should be in more articles. And I would.
I think that's perfect. That's exactly what you need. And then there is a thing on the flag in somewhere in there, and just link it to it. Perfect.
Okay. Brilliant stuff. Okay. I'll put you on the spot very slightly here, John. Anything on the star maps of Gwynedd?
Yeah, the star maps of Gwynedd are in the one pager. It says megaliths, and it goes ding dong ding. Star maps of Gwynedd under 5 megaliths. It made it into the 2-pager.
Brilliant.
I think you should be very pleased.
I think he should be. I know he will be. That's great stuff. Well done. Brilliant.
Okay. I think it's brilliant. It's a brilliant achievement, and it's marvellous.
It's huge.
Wonderful and colourful and brilliant.
Good old Hugh of Cairo. Right, okay. Before I ask you my final question, John, I'm just going to ask you something that you mentioned earlier in the Marvel section. You mentioned an ancient repository of souls. Can you elaborate on that a bit? Because that sounds very enticingly.
Why don't you go into the CVpedia again? Get to the contents page.
I have to share page.
We can have a look at it together.
Brilliant. Okay.
Otherwise, I'm going to be doing this from memory, and it won't be nearly so satisfying.
Okay, let's come out of the more articles. We're back on
CVpedia.
CVpedia. There we are.
Now go to Marvel's Religion 6.1. Okay. Now that's Sacred Isle. I think that's it's an immense home of divinity and a repository of souls. Greek writers were wont to write of the secrets of the island of Britain. So that now in the next one, you've got it there. You see the ancient repository of souls. That Roman historian Procopius, the last major historian of the ancient world, described how fishermen in Brittany found their boats sunk to the gunwales by the invisible spirits of the dead, whom they felt impelled to carry across to Britain's shores. On arrival, they saw their boats rise in water as souls landed, and they heard voices of other invisible beings on shore, checking names and status. The Romans are said for this reason to have absolved the Bretons from paying the imperial tax.
Wow.
There's lots of this stuff. I just partly for fun and partly to prepare for this assault, this interrogation. I read all this and I just thought, I wrote all that. That's amazing.
Yes, very good. It says here that the ancients, right back to the Egyptians, believed that souls were born towards the setting sun to a land in the Western Sea. And I know for a fact that the Egyptians, or at least the ancient Egyptians, didn't have a word for death. They described it as westing, which there you are. You see that kind of correlates. That's very interesting. Thank you.
I'll drink to that.
Yes, me too. Brilliant. Okay, let's come back to screen now. I'll just stop sharing screen. I'll just check in the chat box just to see if we've got any more questions very quickly. I don't think so. This is your last chance, everyone. Only possible. No, that's not it. I'll just skirt through this as quickly as I can. No, we seem to be done there. Right, okay. So one final question from me, John. How are you seeing our History CV of Britain videos fitting into the overall National CV project?
What we're doing is we're doing a series of videos, and we really can do these. Whereas if you try to do the 70 key dates, of course, some of them have got 2 or 3 subjects in them, and you're on 150, 200 videos. I mean, it's impossible. But we can do 6 videos, and then we can move from there, and they can just be dovetailed into the project. With this webmaster is obviously going to be die of exhaustion. Actually, he's going to be carted off to hospital, have a near-death experience, and then survive. So, I mean, it's a really good job.
What a great advertisement for the post.
Yeah,
John.
It's perfect. You'll love it. You'll love it. I tell you, I had to get this thing uploaded, the one-pager. I had to induce an Icelander who's off work. I'm not kidding you. He's an Icelander in Derby who's off work because of dyspepsia. You can imagine his need for facilities under those circumstances. But I managed to persuade him to do it. His name's Matty, and I would like to say thank you very much, Matty. That was a brilliant effort. Because I couldn't have done it.
Brilliant stuff. Okay, so we're starting off with 6 videos on each of the M's, and we'll take it from there and see what happens.
Exactly. We're 2 in now. We've done 2.
Okay. Well, I think we're there now, John, pretty much. I hope everyone's enjoyed that. We've had loads and loads of comments as always. Thank you for your questions.
So I can go back to my super yacht now, can I?
You can, yes. Have you got Zuckerberg with you this evening on there?
I always have a supermodel here and another supermodel there. Where's my wife?
Yes, I have to be very careful with those sort of comments. Anyway, right, okay. Thanks for watching, everyone. Please do like and hype the video. And if you're new around here, do subscribe to the Britain's Hidden History channel. I'll be back next week with a very, very special guest, a gentleman called Lee Pennington, who I'm sure will be known to many people that follow Wilson and Blackett. He made quite a really good video, actually, with Alan Wilson and Tony Blackett back in the early 90s, I think it was. And yeah, so he was very close friends with Alan Wilson, worked with him very closely. I believe he might actually be about 90 years old now, and he's still going strong. So I'm very much looking forward to having him on the show next week. So don't miss that one. It's going to be an absolute corker. Okay, thank you so much, John. Cheers, everyone.